So Dynamite, man, loaded with fans, and what a difference it made. I mean, this felt like AEW's return to fans.
Were you okay? I guess we had known that they were going to fill this one, but in our preview earlier, we had talked about maybe a big element of ordering Double or Nothing to finally see the crowd react to audience or entrances. Judas, they gave us all of that tonight. Were you surprised they gave us as much as they did?
A little bit, but it's it was going to be a live show, and they wanted to make a weekend out of this. So to me, it added a lot to tonight's show. Like, the atmosphere was the biggest thing on the show for me tonight. And it was a bit surreal watching after all of this time. And even though Daily's Place, I mean, it's been having fans for a long time, but not like this. Like, we didn't have any of the wrestlers out. It was all fans on the floor surrounding the ring. You had the old ramp set up as well. This felt like AEW's first official show back to a regular audience.
Totally. And of course, obviously, logistically, it would probably be too much of a pain to reconfigure everything just to save something like this for Sunday. But I also think that because you are coming off of what you would assume to be a large SmackDown audience this time, you probably want to put your best foot forward. And if you're just tuning in from SmackDown to this, there is no comparison, which is the more impressive show.
No, not at all. Yeah. And I think, for that reason, tonight, honestly, to me, you could argue that they could have pushed this maybe harder, because there wasn't one element on the show that I would say was grabbing your attention. Like, they had the Bischoff announcement this week, but I don't know how much that is really going to sway people. But hey, we're back with fans in a real kind of setting. Just hearing their reactions to all these people, that to me was the life of tonight's show.
Well, I think that's one of the differences we could see in the promotion of these live shows between WWE and AEW, where you can guarantee WWE, the next time. I mean, they did it for WrestleMania. They promoted that really hard, the fact that there are going to be live audiences, and they'll continue to do that. Whereas AEW is just, here's the show.
First matchup, they got right to it. Cesar Bononi is out with JD Drake, Ryan Nemeth, and Peter Avalon to take on Darby Allin with Sting. And the crowd red hot. And remember, this crowd has also sat through 2 hours of dark prior to this. So this was a crowd that was there for 4 hours, and they were amped. They were excited to be there, and they added a ton to the show. I thought Cesar Bononi worked a really good match here, built around Darby's ribs, and all of his offense focused on it with his Haas toss. And then Allen eventually rotates onto the back for a rear naked choke, flips to a stunner, and then missile drop kick, coffin drop for the win in 4:22. And then we get into the post match.
I thought it was a good choice to have Darby and Sting be your first faces to appear on screen. Sting, the recognizable face, and your biggest future star in Darby Allin, having a good showcase match here.
Allen calls out Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. They come out. They're not going to fight them for free. Giant chance of you suck, and they're going to beat them on the big stage. It will be the end of one legend, the beginning of two more, and then the wingmen jump Darby Allin and Sting. Sky and Page take part in the attack, and as Sky is going to Pillmanize Sting's ankle, the Dark Order runs out to chase them off. And that was our opening introduction to Dynamite tonight.
Yeah, decent closing angle to this first segment.
Then we went into the weigh-in, and spoiler, you still hold the title of the most effective utilization of the weigh-in in a pro wrestling or MMA context. I don't think this segment threatened any of your award-winning segments.
Well, great. Awesome. I claim to fame.
Paul White is out to host this. This guy was sweating so profusely. I thought he was about to make weight because he was probably dropping 5 pounds as he was walking out here. He was probably going to be sweating more in moments to come. We've got the flags of the United States, the Union Jack hanging, and White promises no shenanigans for this weigh-in. Anthony Ogogo comes out with the factory. QT Marshall's cutting a promo. And then Cody is out with not just the Nightmare family. This was the extended aunts, uncles, cousins. Everybody was out with Cody. This was a crazy train with cargo attached to it. Everyone was out with Cody. So I'll say this: the peak of this was the atmosphere, like it felt like a cool segment with all the entourages out. But then this thing kind of just fell apart because whether there was a problem with the scale or whether Paul White just didn't know how to deal with this scale, time stood still as Cody stood on there, and Paul White is just struggling with this scale. I'm going to guess that he just did not know what weight to throw out there, because you would think you would just improvise and just read out a number. And he ends up finally announcing Cody at 218.
See, my guess is that this was supposed to be a shoot. Like, he was actually supposed to. I'm pretty sure Paul White knows how to use a scale. Okay. But I believe him when he says, yeah, like the bouncing around the ring wasn't helping. Because it's a ring. It's not a solid.
There were a lot of people in this ring. I'm sure that affected this. But there's also, like, once we're at, like, it's like time stood still here. It's like, okay, it's now affecting the segment. Like, just read out a weight and let's keep this moving. Because it really took the air out of this. They had similar issues with a Go-Go who was 219 pounds. They mentioned this guy is dealing with a broken rib. So your heel is working with an injury, along with being 78% blind in one of his eyes.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this guy can overcome all this adversity.
And it's his first match.
His first match against this veteran. Yes, he is the heel in all of this. That said, like, I think the atmosphere
and he is outnumbered in his entourage, like 5-1. What the fuck?
Then they got into, they're doing like yay boo spots on the corners, and Cody like thanks the crowd, like the end of a UFC weigh-in where Rogan just gets a line in from the guys. I'm sure, like, on paper, this sounded like a great idea. And they had, like, the atmosphere was cool at the beginning with, like, the two, like, fight camps. But then I think this just totally fell apart.
I agree. I thought conceptually it was good. The visuals of having the two stables out there, I thought made this whole thing feel really bigger than it did before. But I really don't think execution-wise it played as well as they probably had it in their minds. It wasn't really just the execution of the segment, but I really feel like they were trying to manipulate the crowd, or even at least gauge the crowd into like seeing what the heel babyface dynamic was going to be. QT, I thought, was trying to work hard to get the crowd to boo for Anthony Gogo. He came out and was like, "Why are you guys booing a Gogo?" They weren't booing a Gogo that hard, okay? Maybe a few people in the crowd were, but it was
the line he used was, "Why are you booing Paul White? He's a legend." So he was trying to transfer the boos as though they were for Paul White. But you're right, like they weren't they weren't significant like heel reactions.
You see, like the way that promo was cut last time, I mean, this was supposed to be a big USA type of thing, and the vibe was just not there. So I think that had a lot going against it. And then of course the execution was really not smooth at all. But you know, weigh-ins typically aren't. You've been to many of these. They're awkward.
They are. But usually not because the scale can't be read. So maybe they will invest in a digital scale, as Paul White suggested. We had a video for Stadium Stampede, part of the Countdown show that's going to air on TNT Saturday night. Then a brawl between Hobbs and Christian backstage, ending with Cage spearing Hobbs into some boxes. I guess just to put some focus on them going into the Battle Royale, but this was one of those segments that you totally forgot by the end of the show.
He first threatened him with like one of those stanchions, like the the things like that would have probably maimed the
might have killed the guy, yeah.
So then he switched to the cardboard boxes, which I think was a good move.
Hangman Page and Joey Janela. These guys were working snug with one another. Taz is out on commentary. They mentioned Janela has won 4 of his last 5. They go through a break, and then Page's mouth gets busted open. There's a snap German by Janela, sending Page into the corner, and then Page fires up with, after he takes a top rope elbow, Page hits the discus elbow and a pop-up powerbomb, hops on over to the apron, and somehow in that sequence of the elbow and pop-up powerbomb, this guy busted his forehead open, which I don't know what happened here, but this was a significant cut he got. There was a lot of blood. He hits the buckshot lariat in 9:49, and then with like his head leaking, his mouth is busted open. He's got to stick around for this promo segment with Taz, and then he brings out Brian Cage, and essentially, Page is able to convince Cage that he should come out on his own on Sunday and leave Team Taz in the back, or else it proves your balls have shrunk. And Brian Cage said, my balls are just fine. I'll leave them in the back. And then they will have a match. Pretty much they're telling you there will be no involvement from Team Taz. You'll get a clean finish.
Yeah, I mean, probably the most notable thing out of this was the blood. And, you know, it's really interesting, the timing of a cut. Because, like, we've seen instances, of course, like with Britt Baker, where it's really added to the quality of the match. This was not one of those. It wasn't necessarily cool looking blood because it didn't really occur in the midst of, like, you know, a Deep Waters underdog performance. Like, this, I think, was supposed to be a relatively easy match for Page on his way, like, on the go-home show ahead of a pay-per-view. And we didn't even really see the spot where it occurred, so it just kind of, like, made things a little bit
it was like that weird phantom spot we saw when QT Marshall gave Cody the middle finger, and then all of a sudden the guy's bloody in the figure 4 a few weeks ago.
This was leaking a whole lot more.
Yeah, there was a lot here.
Segment was fine overall.
We go outside, and Moxley and Kingston have the Young Bucks and their shoes that they stole. And then mid-sentence, we go to commercial break. So there was some mess up here, which, I mean, not surprising. The Young Bucks totally took credit for on their Twitter bio, saying they were in the production truck and cut to break. Always very smart how they're on top of this. Anyway, they came back from break and they just resumed the promo, which I'm glad there wasn't a problem, because this was a very good promo from the two. Moxley jokes that, you know, the Bucks just think we're a couple of schmucks. I trust this man, Eddie Kingston, with my life. I've had his back in war, and it's going to be one at Double or Nothing. I want those belts. I need them. And then Kingston says, Mox, they're going to quit. They're going to quit because they quit on the boys in the back, the ones who are sitting around doing nothing while the elite are all over everything. We speak for the underdogs, and maybe the Bucks won't be part of AEW after Sunday. Hey, perhaps we can be the new EVPs. Moxley is not interested in such a job title and descended. I thought this promo was great. I enjoy these two playing off one another. I think it's great. And the line was Moxley comparing the Young Bucks to Rod and Todd Flanders, which has to be a t-shirt.
Rod and Todd Flanders with the Bucks. Yeah, sure. I'm sure that would sell plenty. Yeah. You know, I really like the bond, the vibe of the bond that these two show. I can't really, like, you know, because these are so improvised, it doesn't necessarily feel like the type of promo where you're like, wow, like, this is one of the best promos I've seen in Dynamite. They're more just kind of like moments of these two interacting, and there's something very organic about them. There's just something really cool about seeing them together. And, you know, I look at this entire run as them just setting up their relationship so that the inevitable turn will hurt that much more. And I just can't wait.
From there, we go on, and Shivani goes to bring out Orange Cassidy. Instead, Pac is out and cuts a promo saying Cassidy is irrelevant on Sunday. Don Callis appears on the screen, calling Pac a sociopath. And Kenny Omega jumps in but gets attacked by Pac. The Good Brothers are out. The Lucha Bros are out, both Penta and Phoenix. Omega gets the advantage, goes for the One-Winged Angel, when all of a sudden, the Pixies plays. And out comes Cassidy, the Best Friends, Chris Statlander, huge reaction, and he presents to Kenny an envelope with the shredded up document that they gave to Orange Cassidy. Orange punch to Omega, and then Cassidy and Pac get into a fight, ending with an orange punch on Pac. So going into the triple threat, it is Orange Cassidy standing tall over Omega and Pac.
I can't say, you know, the tease of Orange Cassidy returning Kenny Omega's document was any sort of like hook for this episode in the story, but I thought the segment wasn't outstanding, but it did its job of reminding us about the match on Sunday and reinforcing the fact that Orange Cassidy is likely, you know, very likely the fan favorite amongst the three. I found it really interesting seeing his reaction in front of a live audience for the first time in a year. And I think I might have overestimated the reaction. I don't know, maybe if it was because it was this late into the show, but I felt like the segment was set up for a big reaction, and we didn't quite get it here. But I do think the match will be totally different because, you build some near falls in there and this crowd will be right behind him. I don't think anybody expects a title change coming, but if they could successfully suspend our disbelief to get us to buy into that one Orange Cassidy near fall, I'll think the match will have been successful.
Shivani's with Jade Cargill, who's approached by Matt Hardy, who says he's going to win the Casino Battle Royale. But in comes Mark Sterling, who announces that Jade Cargill is now officially his client and threatens Matt Hardy with a restraining order. And Sterling's agreement with Jade Cargill is he only gets paid when she wins, and Hardy leaves furious. So Sterling is now the representative for Jade Cargill.
I mean, it feels like we had weeks of setup for this Jade Cargill thing, and I was a little disappointed because I thought it would end with a big name. This kind of feels like a bit of an anticlimactic end to the story. We didn't even see her sign or anything, but I do think this Mark Sterling guy is very good at this as this smug managerial character.
I like him. Yeah.
So
we'll see where they go with this. I mean, it's all ultimately. She's a very good promo as well herself. So we'll see how this dynamic works between the two. Cargill took on Kylan King. This was the open challenge, and they went through a break. Cargill was doing curls with her, and then King lunges at Sterling on the floor, ends up with Jade Cargill winning with Jaded, the glam slam that Frankie Monet is also, had been using and is continuing to use in NXT.
Thought the match went a little bit long. I mean, maybe it's because I was actually paying a bit of attention through the commercial, but I don't know if there was enough material for Jade Cargill to do a match through a commercial. I kind of feel like shorter is better for somebody like her.
Lance Archer and Jake Roberts are on the screen. Archer gives Dante little chance, but he wants to face Miro because Miro has pissed him off. Well, spoiler, he's going to face Miro on Sunday because Miro ran through Dante Martin. They did give Martin some offense here with a double springboard moonsault and then lands on his feet on the ramp and comes back with a big springboard drop kick. Each time Miro kicks out at one before drilling him with the Machka kick and applying game over in 306. Wouldn't release the hold. And then that was that. I mean, it was short. It was what it needed to be for Miro to run through a guy going into the pay-per-view.
I will say another element to the Jade Cargill match, and maybe that we should be a bit more fair to her, but you have to realize that was likely the biggest crowd she's had to wrestle in front of thus far, at least in AEW. She would have debuted during the pandemic and wouldn't have had an experience like that. So I imagine maybe some nerves would have been attached to it, but Miro is somebody who comes out here and you immediately see that he's not really shaken by the return of the crowd at all. There's no nervousness, and you would of course understand with his level of experience. He was able to command the crowd really well, and this was just the crowd was cheering for Miro. They were screaming, "Miro's gonna kill you!" So this dude is certainly over, and he got over just in time for these crowds to return.
Jake and Archer reappear, and Jake says, Sunday, Miro's fairy tale comes to an end. We don't play fairy tales. And then Jake, in his usual crazy moment of a promo, went to speak a foreign language. I cannot identify what foreign language he was trying to utilize, but did give us a translation of, why don't you shut the F up? And Archer is focused and ready. The Jake Roberts character is designed that after you hear him talk, you're supposed to say, what the fuck? That's the goal, I feel.
I don't know if that's by design anymore, John. I think that's just the effect the current Jake Roberts has, because that was not always his style whatsoever. I have to say, I don't know if the Jake thing is helping Lance Archer at all anymore. I think Lance Archer can speak plenty on his own, and this I felt just kind of made them feel a bit confusing. And I do have some concern for the heel babyface dynamics of this match because, they positioned Lance Archer as the babyface coming out of this segment, but you watch this match, it is undeniable that Miro is the overwhelming babyface in this feud. The crowd loves him, whereas I feel they're largely apathetic towards Archer at this point. And man, how can you compete with the undefeated beast who delivers funny one-liners? it's really tough. So I hope in the match they work with Miro as the babyface.
Yeah, Miro just called Jake an old fart, and then they got into a brawl. The chokeslam was avoided, and they did a big pull apart here. What I like throughout this show is that this had the feel of a big pay-per-view coming up on Sunday and a traditional go-home show that here it's the climax of all these feuds. You finally get the showdown on Sunday. They felt like they wanted to make this a big deal. Like, these guys can't wait to get to Sunday, and the programs they focused on tonight, like they had that urgency attached to them. And this one only had the 1 week build. So you kind of had to do something here tonight to add to it. Shivani brings out Hikaru Shida. This is her 1 year celebration as AEW Women's Champion. She's been holding the title for 377 days, and it's presented with a new championship. And Shida thanks all of the fans, says this title is for you. Britt Baker interrupts and says she misspoke when she spoke with Jim Ross when she said she was going to be the face of the women's division. When she wins this new championship, she'll be the face of a whole new era. The past one was about 316. The new one is all about DMD.
This was, again, everything is like so new now that we have crowds to kind of like gauge who is being favored over whom. And Britt Baker definitely like was the favorite here. But it's not like people dislike Shida. I think people really respect and like Shida as well. I think they just like Britt Baker a lot more. So, all that said, I think this segment really was nice and simple and helped prop this matchup to feel grand. Both ladies had plenty of spotlight here to feel important. And I think it'll be a really hot match on Sunday.
I think so too. I mean, it does feel like the crowning of Britt Baker on Sunday, and this is, that's kind of what this has been focused around, against the incumbent champion who has been, holding this thing together for a year. So I think it's a big match for Sunday for both of them. Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky versus Evil Uno and Stu Grayson. They had a nice match. It was, not a ton of time. Grayson fought from underneath when they went through the break. Then Uno and Grayson hit the Cannonball 450 combo. They set up for fatality. That was stopped as Sky got a rolling heel hook on Grayson while Ethan hit Ego's Edge, and they got the pinfall, defeating Grayson and Uno. And then Page cut a promo where Darby Allin came out with a bunch of masked stingers, and each is feeding for Scorpio Sky. And then midway through the procession of stingers was the real one, as he took the mask off to reveal the painted face of Steve Borden. Not as memorable, I would say, a segment.
Didn't do a whole lot to accomplish anything more than the first segment did. It's a reminder that Sting's going to wrestle.
First live match in 6 years.
Right, yes.
First live match. And our final segment, Eric Bischoff comes out. This guy was treated like a legend here in front of this crowd. They were very enthusiastic for Eric Bischoff, who mentions that it was 25 years ago this week when Scott Hall showed up on Nitro, which led to the creation of the NWO, and used that to transition to the group he's about to introduce with the Inner Circle, who come out to Judas. And this was definitely maybe the highlight of the show. Dude, Jericho looked so happy as this crowd was singing their lungs out. I guess this probably ends my idea for how to end the pay-per-view on Sunday, but this was a pretty great moment, and I think this was the entrance everyone was looking forward to with a crowd, a full crowd.
Definitely, yeah. I think there's still plenty of life in these segments, though. We'll probably get extended versions of this for a few weeks to come, if they stick around.
Yes. Jericho thanks Bischoff for all he did for him in WCW and throughout his career. They went through a video package highlighting all of their big moments. Santana cut this great promo calling the fans the best in wrestling today. And if this is our last time together, we wouldn't have it any other way. Ortiz says, yo, that was beautiful, man. Hager.
Santana sounded like awesome.
He was great. This guy has such a future ahead of him.
Oh, man. I really can't imagine them splitting the Inner Circle up. But now sometimes I can, because I hear Santana and I see a leading man waiting to break out. He was great.
Hager says, I'm a big believer in the journey, not just the destination. I don't want to just see the good times. I want to see the hard times where we left a piece of our soul behind and what made us hard men. And then it was a Jake Hager promo. Yeah. Just Biff Tannen. Sammy Guevara said that he arrived with a panda head on, then got to be part of the greatest faction here in AEW. He quit the Inner Circle, and he did not like that at all. He will do everything in his power to make sure that never happens again, and thanks them for everything. The last one is Jericho. It's a very good promo from Guevara. Jericho said he was hesitant to have a group at first, but then when he saw the 5 of them together, it just felt right. It's going to be a war, and if they go down on Sunday, they will do so in a blaze of glory. And he said, guys, I have one thing I want to tell you all. I love you. They hug. They give out the middle fingers. I mean, they certainly want you to believe that this group could very well break up on Sunday. And, you know, for a lot of, I can make a lot of compelling reasons for and against them breaking up now. I think you can look at both of them. I don't think it's a crazy idea that they end this now, and there's a lot of different ideas that you can go with. But anyway, that's not the end of the segment. MJF appears on the screen where he's next door at the stadium, and they reveal a beaten down Dean Malenko as he threatens to make the Iceman extra cold. So the Inner Circle race towards the field, and it's a trap. The Pinnacle pounce them all, culminating with FTR hoisting up Santana and Ortiz and driving them off of ledges with pile drivers through tables. This was pretty significant. Like, these two should not be coming back on Sunday. I thought this was too much. And
I just thought, I mean, of course they're professionals. I've never taken a pile driver, but man, on some level, I worried about the risk here, like ahead of, 2 days away from this big show, but all right.
Well, I just think like that should be a really significant injury, to do like off ledges, a pile driver through tables. And the Inner Circle is left laying on the field to end the show and standing tall. So, I mean, I thought they did a good job of like 80% of this segment was really driving you in the idea of the Inner Circle this could be the swan song. And then at the end, I mean, all the heat is on the Pinnacle. So I thought they did a really effective job. I think this is a big match for Sunday. I think they've given you a good sense that this is going to be a different Stadium Stampede than the one you had last year. Even with the highlight video for the countdown that they showed tonight, other than Guevara, the only like comedy spot they had was Guevara being chased in the cart. Everything else was violence and non-comedy that they showcased. So I do think they got that across to the audience.
I really enjoyed the closing segment. If the goal is to lead the audience to think that the Inner Circle will actually break up, I thought it was highly successful. So I can see them not doing it. But, the point is to suspend our disbelief, and they went through a lot of effort to go about that. So I'm really invested in what seems to be the main event, if this is if this segment is any indication on Sunday.
Can you see anything else closing the show?
No, I can't.
I think it has to be this.
Yeah.
So that was SmackDown. That was Dynamite. And
great job,
open up
John.
The phone lines.
Fitting all of that in into 1 hour.
We got that in an hour. We've kept things going. I didn't think we raced through things. I think we paced it nicely. Got some commentary in there. There we go.